Okay. So this meeting is being recorded, and then I guess we can push a got it. All right, now.
Oh, the speakers here are off? Yes. They are off at the moment.
But the microphone is working for the Zoom. Welcome to the Washington Township Historical Society meeting of Monday, 27th of September. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you wish, and please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're coming out of the COVID, and it's good to see a relatively robust group in comparison to what we had to live with for so long. And Tim is running the, Tim Swinson is our, you wouldn't know it, but he is as good as any teenager in the town. Well, if we could for a moment, I'm John Weed, president of the organization, and have some properties in Mission, San Jose, and Niles. But if we could have everyone introduce themselves, then we can go to the speakers on the program, which is on the Niles Nursery. So Al? And if you're with an organization such as LEAF, please join that. All right, thank you.
I'm with the Washington Township Historical Society. I'm Duke Furtado. My real name's William J. Furtado III.
All right, thank you. Dana?
I cannot hear anybody.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm in the member of the Travis
Can-
Space Museum, lifetime member also.
Okay, thank you, Dana.
Can you repeat the names as people are speaking? I can't hear anything.
Well, thank you. And glad to have you here. And we are, Roger? No, well, just who you are.
I'm sorry, I'm Roger Ravenstad. I'm the Parks Planning and Design Manager with the City of Fremont.
And our speaker tonight will be. And then we have certain people online that I'm sure Paul Sethi and others. And Paul said had a health issue, so he was not able to attend tonight. I have to give credit to Paul Sethi for putting together this program and making the contacts. As you know, at our last meeting, we had Joyce Bluford, who spoke of the history of the project, the nursery, and the background and getting involved. Now, tonight, we're going to be talking or have a talk from the city of Fremont, which acquired the 20+ acres and is in the process of putting it into a park. Roger is the director or manager of the recreation office in Fremont. And
Hey, John, this is Paul Sethi.
Or does the ball?
John, this is Paul Sethi. Can you hear me?
Architect.
Oh, we don't have the speakers on yet. So what do you need? I'll
John.
convey.
This is Paul Sethi. You have a real serious
Okay,
problem here.
are we
with the speakers.
getting input
being
here?
clear.
But
John Weed.
Rico is the
Jeez. There's a real problem with the speakers here. And there's a lot of artificial background noise going on.
as you can tell, we didn't test this beforehand. Enrico has been with the city of Fremont now for 6-7 years. And for that, actually worked on the Illinois College project with the athletic fields that were put in there. With these, he has now taken on the challenge of the nursery, where we have lost a number of trees over time, but not to worry. The city's going to bring in almost 80 more trees, new trees to plant on the site. But Rico can go through all the details and describe the the trials, tribulations, and successes of the California Nursery. Thank you. Rico?
Is everybody comfortable if I take my mask off if I'm standing back here?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. I think it might be easier if you can hear me. Okay. My name is Roger Ravenstead. I'm the Parks Planning and Design Manager with the City of Fremont. And Rico Lardizabal is our Associate Landscape Architect in charge of this project. We are very excited to be here tonight. Rico and I, this project has basically become our life for the past few years. So it's always fun to be able to get out and talk about it. This project or this site, didn't really start with the master plan at all. Didn't start with all the houses being built on the California Nursery property that was once 460 acres plus. Didn't even start with Mexican landowners building an adobe on the site. Some might say that it started with the Ohlone Indians who lived there and the animals that lived there before. Perhaps Dr. Joyce Bluford, a geologist, might even say that it started with Alameda Creek dumping tons of alluvial soil on the site, making it perfect growing grounds for a nursery in the future. But the story that we're trying to tell now is a story that started with John Rock in 1956 in San Jose, who moved his company in 1884. I said 1956 and 1856, and then moved in 1884 to Fremont, Niles, moved his California nursery there. So I know that Dr. Joyce Bluford told you the history of California Nursery and all of its details. So we are not going to repeat that. But I want you to understand that Rico and I, we are passionate about it. We believe in the history of California Nursery, and that is the why for the project. The project, that is its purpose, to bring the history of California Nursery to the people of Fremont. So with that, I thought it would be worthwhile to talk a little bit about the master plan and how it was created. I'd like to also, thanks, Rico, you can advance that. I don't know how well shall I just press the arrow? Here, how about that? Oh, that didn't work either.
On the side, just turn it on.
While Rico's doing that, I want to mention that we have a number of extremely important partners on the site and new partners joining us on the site. Math Science Nucleus, led by Dr. Joyce Bluford, has been enormously helpful in uncovering the Roding archives and helping us understand what the history of the site is really all about. I see Janet Barton back there, who's part of the Garden Club, and we are so thankful for the Garden Club for everything they do at the Rose Garden, the Shade Garden, the Japanese Garden, and everything else they do. We have Dr. Godfrey here with LEAF, Landscape Ecology, Agriculture Fremont, another great partner on the site. Rico's going to talk about how we're giving LEAF a new permanent location on the site. And we also have some emerging new partners coming. We are lucky to have been approached by Alameda County Sheriff's Department with their group, nonprofit group Dig Deep, who would like to manage the historic orchard for us. So that is an exciting future project that Rico's going to talk about. And then now I've stalled just about as far as I can. There we go. Perfect. So I just want to really quickly, Rico's going to go through all the details. But really quickly, I want to remind everybody what the master plan is. So in 1972, the city did accept this 20 acres as California Nursery. It was immediately leased to Naka Nursery, who managed the property up to 2010. And after 2010, it became increasingly obvious that something had to be done with the site. It was, they moved out. We didn't really have a plan. And then Dr. Joyce Bluford had done so much work with Bruce Roding on all of the archives that his family has. And it became clear that there was so much more here, and a master plan was needed in order to embrace the site. So the city engaged PGA, landscape architects, some of the most renowned historic landscape architects in California. There are two partners, one of who is retired now, but did work on the project. Current has been serving on state boards for many years, managing historic landscape architects and helping to articulate standards for the preservation of those historic landscape architects. So we were very lucky to have someone of that caliber, a firm of that caliber, helping us with this master plan. So the theme of this master plan was a light touch. And so very quickly, I'm going to go over this because this has already been adopted by the City Council in 2017. And we are now beginning the first phase implementation, which Rico is really going to spend most of the time talking about. But very quickly, is there a laser? So there we are. The white buildings. Oh, this is the wrong one. Okay, so that's not the white buildings. So there are a number of historic buildings that are on the site. This is the office. This is the Vallejo Adobe. This is the president's house. This is the packing shed. This is the existing water tower. This is not a historic building, but it's existing. It's the restroom, the Adobe restroom. This is not an historic building. It is what we call the ROP building. And this is the Roding family house that is not on the property. This is a separate piece of property over here. The master plan proposed some new structures. This would be a visitor center. This would be an interpretive center. This would be a classroom. This is a restoration of the historic water tower that's no longer there. That was a landmark throughout Niles. You could see it from all around. This would be modified into an archive storage building. And this would be another restroom to serve the rear part of the site. It's a large 20-acre site. So very quickly again, the site is set up on a grid pattern to reflect the historic layout of a grid nursery, which was here at California Nursery. These long linear lines are being brought back, as you can see that go across. And then a new introduction is the curvilinear paths, a marked difference to bring people into the site so they can explore and appreciate the site better than rather just on the main grid lines. These circular paths are smaller and lower intensity. Real quickly, this is the main entrance here. This is a new proposed secondary entrance that is actually under construction right now. New parking over on this side. This is the existing parking lot, refurbished, underway right now. This is what we call the educational area. It's basically a historical compound with the packing shed, the president's house, and the interpretive center and the classroom. So really the heart of the educational component lives here in the site, kind of the heart of the future heart of the site. Back here is a magical place called the Box Forest, which you're going to see more of today. And over in this rear corner is the historic orchard. There's picnic areas that are proposed in this area, and the rest is really all a light touch. You see a lot of green on this plan, but it is not grass. It is not mowed grass. So, and I'm not sure if I mentioned, this is the new location for Leith and their permanent location that they will be able to set their roots down, sorry for the pun, for a longer period of time. So with that, I just wanted to give it over to Rico, who's going to talk to you about the current projects that are going on in phase one.
It's Roger. So let me back up. So for this presentation, Roger went through the master plan background. I'm going to be speaking mostly on the phase one backbone infrastructure project, which is the current construction project that you're seeing now. I'll touch on some of the previous projects, smaller projects kind of leading to this, and then the future projects, and then the interpretive signage and wayfinding plan that we are also developing. And then lastly, we'll leave it to questions and answers. So before we got started with this construction project, one of the first projects we did was the fault trace investigation. And this is to the Hayward fault runs across through this property. It's shown to be running this way. And you can see here, this is about a 200-foot long trench that's about 10 feet deep, where we had our geologists look for traces of the fault. So this was really the first project that I was involved in the project. I've been, like as Roger said, this has been kind of our lives for the last few years, probably the 3 years, my last 3 years. This has taken up a majority of my time as working for the city. Involves really studying the master plan and figuring out how to best implement it. There's a lot of projects and projects within projects, just figuring out how to best package the project, design it, and put it, construction drawings and bid documents out. Let's see. Another project that we did about a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, is the stabilization of the president's house. This started out as a roofing project. They also ended up redoing the electrical, some foundation work, and other touch-ups there. So right now, it's not the building's not, it's being used by Math Science Nucleus as an archive building to sort out the archives that's coming from the Roding collection. Let's see if this works now. This was another one of my early projects at the nursery. It involved the removal of the old retail building. As identified on the environmental impact report, the building was not salvageable, and we had to get rid of take it down. Where it stands, as you can see on the master plan, it will be the home of the future visitor building, which we hope to take some of the architectural kind of features of this old building and incorporate it into that. Here's some construction project timelines and milestones. The master plan was adopted on December 2017. I got involved in the project soon after. And from about 2018 to 2020, that's when we were putting together these construction drawings. We happen to have a pandemic that happened right in the middle of that, which made it more interesting and gave us some challenges. The project went out to bid at the end of September, or at September 2020, and we started construction right after Thanksgiving of 2020. And it's originally was supposed to be completed on October of this year. With added scope, it's now anticipated to be completed January 2022. When we first started this construction project, the design project, it was really, we were looking at just putting in the underground infrastructure. But once we got into that, it just made sense from a timing standpoint, just to build the walkways, the plaza areas, and make it into a usable park by the time we're done. So this is what's included in this phase one backbone project. It's existing tree preservation. We are preserving, there's over 750 trees that we are preserving. Transplanting of some trees, mostly palm trees that used to live in the parking lot, and also pruning. We've had to remove some diseased and dying trees on this project. As to this day, I think there's about 20 to 30 trees that's gone away from the mature trees. Not all of them was a part of this project. A few of them were taken out throughout the years by our parks maintenance group. I think this project cut down about 10 to 15 trees that were diseased or dying. The project, there's not a whole lot to remove from the site. There's the existing parking lot pavement that, if you guys remember, it's probably due for replacement. A lot of cracks and missing pieces. And as part of this work with putting in all the walkways and the trenching for all the utilities, that generated a lot of soil, about 3,000 cubic yards of soil. We had the opportunity, we have another park project that we're doing at Dusterberry Neighborhood Park, where it's a 4-acre park that used to be a car dealership, mostly paved. So they had to take out about a foot to 2 feet of a pavement and soil profile. And we're able to move about 3,000 yards of good California nursery soil to Dusterberry. I'll save that project money. That saves this project not only money, but a place to move the soil, because that soil is going to be displaced with the new pavement sections and the new trench backfill for all the utilities that are going in. So utilities that are going in, there's storm drain, sewer, fire lines, hydrants, potable water, power and data. It's going to be storm drain for this project is not going to be hooked up to the municipal drainage system. Right now, the existing site does not have connection to our storm drain system. Everything is kept on site. The runoff, it just meant to infiltrate in the ground. We're keeping that even with the new development, and we're doing that through the use of permeable paving, and surfaces, and putting in French drains and encouraging the water to percolate. And also with the use of biotreatment planters, and I'll go over more of that later. And then the site improvements, Roger touched on the pathways, that the spine, the grid, and also the circular walkways. And then plaza, like minor plaza areas that occur throughout the park, where folks can gather, meet up, stop, and kind of smell the roses. And then the parking areas. So there's redoing the main parking lot, and then also putting in this secondary entry on the Hillview side, secondary entry with parking lot. Note that this access also gives emergency vehicle access to the roading property, and it will have this connection. Also gives parking to the users on this side of the park. Leaf, the education component, and the classroom, and also serves as an emergency vehicle access to the park, not just the roading. And then throughout the park would be we're going to be rehabilitating the meadows and the native planting areas. The site, this project has required grading to move soil, so now it's a bare earth. So we will be hydroseeding those with a native, like a native wildflower mix to help encourage and bring in the birds and the bees. And then a big component of this project is irrigation and planting. Unfortunately, we did lose some trees, but we are planting over 70 new trees, most of them oak trees and other native species. And that's just for this project. Our future projects will also involve adding more trees to supplement the mature trees now and kind of give the future generations of Fremont an urban forest. And then irrigation, that's another big component of this. I think we are putting in about almost 4 miles of irrigation lines on this project. So it shows you kind of how much irrigation is going in. And this is not only to irrigate the new trees that we're planting, but also to supplement irrigation for the mature trees. And then lastly, as part of the last component of this project are the park furnishings, benches, picnic areas, or picnic tables, trash and recycling bins or cans, drinking fountains, security lighting, which will go around the parking lots and the main points of egress and so at the entrances where the pedestrians would go. This park is open from dusk till dawn, except for special occasions. So when we have events at night, we can turn on the security lighting a little bit brighter. And then bike parking. So what we had to deal with on this project is different from a lot of other park projects where you're wiping out, let's say 4 acres or 10 acres and then starting over. This is certainly not the case. With this site, we have the gardens, the rose garden and other, not just roses, right, Janet? And then the adobe gardens. We have the Canary Island palms, even have the bamboo at certain locations. So I quickly got to learn about these stakeholders, these partners that we have on site. Got to know Janet, Dr. Joyce Bluford, Richard and the folks at Leaf, and then Peggy and Wilma, and then Bruce Roding. And I met you at when we went and I think you visited the president's house for the first time in a while. Yes, I think you said you used to play there, and you remember the telephone that was hanging on the wall.
Yeah, I lived there when I was a little kid.
So yeah, I show this picture of this existing tree. So this project, again, different from a lot of other projects that I've worked on. Usually you design it, go out to bid, and then it gets built. And for the most part, it gets built how you drew it up. This project's a little different because every day there's, it seems like every day there's something new, whether it's a fire line or a water line that's been hit, something that didn't exist that we saw, tree roots. So this is this tree we had to reconfigure, design it on the fly almost. And obviously for a construction project, you got to do it quickly because the clock is ticking and the contractor just want to take advantage of any delays to charge us more money. So there's that challenge. Here's again talking about existing trees. I know it's I don't know how many years ago was that when the Eagle Scouts was it that built these boxes around the trees?
It was after. It was after 2010.
Okay. So they built the boxes around these trees. We lost a couple of those trees. Here's one of them. So as part of this project, we're replanting an oak tree in the box. So here's the existing parking lot. Well, after the pavement was demolished and removed. This was early on. This was towards the end of 2020 or early 2021, when this was really the first part where the contractor started their work, taking out the surface and the base, and also transplanting. There are a couple windmill palms that's unique here in California, and a couple other palms that we moved in. I'll show you a picture of where we moved that to. So yeah, again, the projects involve grading and trenching. So hopefully in a few months, we won't see that anymore and we'll be closer to a completed product. Here's the big part of this project from a scope perspective and cost perspective, or the underground utilities. Want to put in a majority of the infrastructure needed in order to implement the entire master plan and all the future buildings. So involves, again, storm drain, sewer, fire, potable water, power, and data. You can see the amount of conduits. This is these are electrical for power and data conduits. About 6 miles worth of pipe that went in the ground or is going in the ground. New PG&E transformer to be able to power up the whole 20 acres, and then fire lines. I don't know if you can see this clearly. This is one of my favorite pictures from the site. We have all these conduits, and here with electrical boxes went in, but you can see this this tree root that's over 12 inches in diameter. So this was probably the largest root that we ran into, but we were running into these challenges throughout the project. Another challenge is hitting a water line almost every other day. And I'd get a text message either from Janet or from Leaf every other day within like maybe, well, actually, those text messages would come like within like 2 minutes of each other. We have no water. It's been good lately. It should be good now because we put in the new irrigation main line and you guys are all hooked up to that new irrigation main line. So there's always that source. So I was talking about encouraging stormwater to infiltrate in the ground. The parking lot and the driveway, they're all, we're putting in permeable concrete, pervious concrete with permeable pavers. On a permeable rock base, and below that is a French drain, a perforated drain. So all the water from the rain, instead of just going straight to the storm drain system, it is stored underneath the pavement or even within the pavement for the pervious concrete. It has about 30% voids, and then it'll take it to a French drain that then is piped from kind of where the parking lot is now, all the way down to the end past the Alameda County Water District emergency well location. If you guys know where that is located, but towards the Quarry Lakes direction and into bio treatment planter. And there's other smaller bio treatment planters along the way.
Which bio-treatment plants are you speaking?
What species?
What are you going to build?
We're building them, yeah. It's actually in right now. You can, yeah, you can see it here. These plants were probably planted maybe a couple days before this picture was taken. So at some point that should, the plant should take over that space. Here's the configuration of the new parking lot. So Niles is over here. Here's Nursery Avenue. As you can see, this is a little bit different from what you see on the master plan, and that's because of all the existing mature trees that we wanted to save. We were able to transplant some of the windmill palms and a couple of the Mexican fan palms, but yeah, this is where we kind of deviated a little bit from the previous configuration, because we know that those trees is a valuable resource to this project. So there's about 100 parking stalls at this main parking. There's handicap spaces here. Over here, as you move in closer towards the palm trees, here is a vehicular and bus drop off, and which makes it convenient also because it's right next to the restroom We see this little plaza area as kind of a welcoming plaza once you're in the parking lot, and it's adjacent to future picnic areas. Will be group picnic, family picnic. You can see we're adding where we can, adding new trees to the parking lot. And here's some views of, here's a view looking out into the parking lot and into Niles at the, well, Leaf right now. Eventually that'll be an entry plaza. And then Niles. The space, yeah, so we're just looking from the Palms, where the future picnic area. To the right, the image on the right shows the drop-off, the bus parking / vehicular drop-off. In the background is a little bit dark here, but we see like seat walls that we're putting in around those plazas. Here's a better a blow up of that area where you see the seat walls, little plaza, and then this round pathway here goes around an existing tree. And we're doing this at a couple locations where the pathways run into existing trees. Yeah, you can see the seat walls by the Adobe restroom building. So this circular path, you can see this is that circular path here with the existing tree and the parking lot in the background. This is, this is back towards the box tree forest. So if you're if you're on the north side of the park, the pathway that takes you to the Alameda County Water District facilities and towards Quarry Lakes, and into that bio treatment area. So we have, you can't see it on the photo here. You can see a little bit. This to the left, bottom left hand corners, you can see pavers. That's the pavers that you see on the plan on the bottom right hand side. That leads you to this anchor. This is like the anchor for one of the anchors for the box tree forest. So this will lead you into that forest, what Roger called a magical, mystical place. And then this will allow all users to go through this forest. Here's another example of pathways and like mini plazas. This is located between the main parking lot and that previous little plaza I showed towards the box tree forest. The picture on the bottom left-hand corner is a view you would see. If you look at the plan above that, there's that square area that shows pavers and a bench at the end. So this would be a nice place to rest after a long walk. And just look at what lies ahead. And this is another example of the pathway running into a tree and how we dealt with that. To the right, the bottom right corner, you can see that the pathway is not lining up. The master plan originally showed it lining up, but in order to still keep that linear approach and still keep the existing trees, we did a jog here and then made this area into a plaza where roads meet. This is a plaza. This next slide shows the plaza that's at the end of the interpretive spine. So this plaza is at the southmost, if you look at the center of the park and then you go all the way south. This plaza divides, on one side is the historic orchard, on the other side is the box tree forest. And this is where we see a lot of either, for special events where you can have parties, some gatherings, talks. And it's a good area to start, kind of a central area if and with the orchard on one side and the box tree forest on the other side. You can see seat walls going in. They're not finished yet. These will have some wall caps and and some aesthetic decorative features. The bottom photo shows the view from this plaza towards the orchard and an open meadow area. Here's a good image. Now this is from the plaza facing the box tree forest. On the left side is the walkway that we saw earlier, cutting across the box tree forest. On the right side is one of those circular walkways that wraps around. There's a clearing to the right of on the right side where there's a clearing where we're showing a future restroom building. So now I'm jumping over to, this is the secondary entry that we're putting in towards the Hillview side. So this is at the end of the property along where those Canary Island palm trees, the row of Canary Island palm trees along the property line, if you're facing downtown Niles. So we're putting in a new driveway and parking. I believe there's about 50 spaces. This accommodates about 50 spaces. Closest to Niles is where the new home and the permanent home of Leaf is going to be. There's parking spaces in front of them, not too different from what they have now, just better paving and nicer paving. And then as we move down into the park, we have we're putting in these this grid of trees to simulate to recreate an orchard look. And then as we go below, there's a space for a future classroom building, and then this roadway ends, and at some point it can be connected and serve as the emergency vehicle access for the roading property. So yeah, Roger went over the walkway spine earlier, but here's some more examples of the walkway. The bottom left photo is a walkway that connects the main parking lot to, on the left side where this fence is the Vallejo Adobe. On the right side is where Leaf is currently located. I think the picture on the right is the same picture as you saw earlier, where I was saying that where you can sit down on the bench and look towards the park. Here's another example of where walkways, the pathways meet, where we've created kind of a mini plaza area, something of interest. In some of these areas, at some point when we do the interpretive sign and wayfinding program, we can house some of those interpretive signs at these locations. And also along this pine is where we've strategically placed benches and trash receptacles, drinking fountains, the park amenities that we all need and want. Now I'm going to talk about the Leaf, the future Leaf location. So if you look at the plan on the left, above that, this is Niles Boulevard, the new entrance, vehicular entrance is, you don't really see, you see a little bit of it on the right side of the plan, but it runs on the right side. So here we're in the process of incorporating this move into our current construction project, where we're going to put in, right now we're already putting in the fencing, we're going to put in the surfacing, and then rebuild the planter boxes and put in utilities for their future needs. And Leaf, it's going to be right at the front of California Nursery. It's a big partner for us. This rendering on the right side, we got from Leaf. You guys put this together. So I borrowed your image. I think it really shows how your new facility is going to work with the site. Here's a view of where that Leaf facility is. Right now, the contractor's using that space as their staging area. Where their construction fencing is, more or less, is the footprint of the future Leaf site. Here's another view of that. Shows you its relation to the president's house or Lander's house. This curb here, the concrete curb that's covered with the soil right now, that's the edge of the sidewalk. There's a wide sidewalk, and then just between the parking spaces and where Leaf's going to go. So now I want to talk about our future projects. So again, with this backbone infrastructure project, it's once that's done, we're off to the next projects. We're actually doing some of these projects concurrently. So the first project here is the Adobe restroom renovation. So we're going to council for approval on that shortly, and then hoping to get that contractor up and running within about a month and a half from now. The existing restroom has to be locked and unlocked manually. That's why it's usually locked. It's only unlocked for special events or by the partners that we have there. They have access to that, like Mad Science Nucleus. But we're going to be renovating this to put in automatic doors so it can be locked and unlocked on a timer, and also some code upgrades. So the schedule for this to be completed is right around the same time as the overall phase 1 backbone infrastructure project. So the hope is by the time that project's turned over to us and we're ready to open this to the public, that we will have restrooms that will be open to the public from during park hours. We also have we're working on an irrigation well project where we're putting in an irrigation well. There was an existing irrigation well at the site that stopped working or exploded. This was before my time. It phased out. Yes, so we are replacing that. Having the well water is going to be valuable for us, especially with the amount of trees that we're going to be irrigating and supplementing the irrigation for. Right now, 750 plus or minus, plus the 70 new trees and plus the featured trees.
Will be your primary irrigation or supplement?
The hope is that will be our primary irrigation, but for everyone, including Leaf, we will be dual plumbed. We'll have the ability to hook up easily to. Right now, it's connected to municipal water. We're still going to be dual plumbed, similar to what we did at Lila Bringhurst, because sometimes wells break or stop working or have to be rehabilitated. So we'll have the ability to toggle that on and off relatively easily.
Is that the well that's near the new road?
So this well right now has not been located, but we're looking at more or less, we have an idea of where we want to locate it. It's it's kind of between kind of the packing shed and the orchard, along kind of the property line where we have the open land where it's called out to be a meadow. Right now, that's where we're looking at the well to go. It's close to our electrical transformer, so we can hook that up relatively easily and inexpensively to the power. When we've walked that site, our understanding is that well, again, this all depends on when our consultant, our well designer, our hydrogeologist, is that what they're called? determines where to best situate that, but that's what we're looking at.
Is that kind of along the roading property line?
Let's see, yeah, kind of along the roading property line, behind the fence. And between the packing shed, that open space, all the way to the orchard.
Suggests that there's a dramatic difference. Sorry.
It has not been located yet. We have a lot
Yeah,
of work to do. We're
yeah.
prematurely discussing the location of the well,
Yeah.
but we don't know where the water is yet.
Yeah.
That's what we first have to
Because
find.
I thought there was a well that blew out, but it was over closer to where.
It was on the Hillview property.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not on our, well,
No, the Hillview property, we have another. piece
oh,
of
that
property.
little lease
Yes.
part that's
Mhm.
next door.
Yeah.
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 That's where the well was.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
There's a
And I thought we were
dramatic,
gonna use that.
there's a dramatic difference in the groundwater conditions above the fault and below the fault.
That's exactly right.
Urge you to have
Okay.
a look at both. You'll have possibly much better results above the fault, much more stable.
Okay.
We're hiring people smarter than us.
Yeah, so
You may not know the area, so
the person that we're hiring, he's been around for a long time. I think he helped, I can't remember what he's worked with ACWD quite a bit. He's on the,
John is a board member.
so Geo, I can't remember their name. JC Wire, John is the name. I don't know if that rings.
Jason Wire, okay.
Have you heard?
No, I-
Okay. So, and then the orchard area, Roger touched on it. So we're looking at partnering with Alameda County Sheriff's Office and their nonprofit arm, Dig Deep Farms, for them to manage the orchard. And with their help, and then also folks like Dr. Joyce Bluford and Janet, they'll give us the ability to not only maintain their existing orchards, about 40 orchard trees now, mostly apricots, but also to reintroduce the historic fruit trees that was grown at the site at one point or another. And then the entry plaza and potential rose garden, where Leaf is currently situated. That's also another one of the projects that's hopefully in a not too distant future. This plaza will serve as the welcome mat to the site, where visitors can experience the park even before they go inside the park. This will be for the interpretive sign program. I think this will be one of the key locations where this will happen, where kind of our ideas would have like a timeline of events from kind of maybe where the Ohlone Indians all the way through the more modern times. And then we're showing the picnic areas, which, as we've heard, I think a lot of the Fremont residents and visitors would love to have picnics at this park, whether it's a family picnic, maybe a group picnic area. And then also outdoor classrooms. Some of these picnic areas can probably serve also as a kind of a pop-up classroom. Oh, I think I pressed the wrong button. Oh. So here's a little bit on the orchard area. So this on the bottom left is the excerpt from the master plan. Again, we're at about 40 orchard trees. We're looking at potentially adding another 40 is what we can fit. At this point, when we do this project, we would extend the walkway that's running down the Box Tree Forest and sweep around to give one, and then also put in an orchard pergola that will encourage people to walk to the orchard, sit, relax, and kind of and appreciate the orchard Here's a picture of one of the picnic areas. It's the one, if you look at the map, it's the leftmost P. Well, there's several P. So it's this, the upper left area where you're seeing trees. Just calling it the quote unquote palms picnic area. There's a lot of palms here, a lot of them unique to California. You can see this is where we transplanted a few of the palms, the windmill palms that you see. Some of these palms will be transplanted from the parking lot, and we want to turn this into a picnic area in the future. This slide shows a view of where the future classroom will be situated. You can see the hydrant, the new fire hydrant kind of that will service this future building. The clearing that you see behind that is where this classroom is slated to go. Behind that would be the packing shed and the rest of the educational components. Let's see. This is a photo of where the visitor center is. So there you can see where the smaller truck is. That's Nursery Avenue. Niles is on the right. The mound of the stockpile of soil is where the old retail building used to be. And we're looking at in the future putting in a new visitor center and some parking behind that. Right now, as part of this phase 1 project, they'll just that area will just be a gravel parking lot, just kind of setting the framework for future. As part of this phase 1 project, we are putting in an interim entry plaza or interim visitor center or kiosk. So you can see on the plan, there's a rectangular paved area where we're putting, these are wood columns. The columns are spaced and located exactly where the columns from the old retail building used to be. We kept 3 of them. We originally wanted to keep those columns, but they were so decayed. You can just push. I think we were able to push one over and it just fell to the ground. So this is a temporary feature where we're going to be. We can display signs, interpretive signs talking about the California Nursery, and kind of until we get to build the entry plaza area. Oh, okay. All right. Let me move to that. So interpretive sign and wayfinding plan. So we just started this process. We are doing this internally right now. The images that you see here are just ideas and examples of what we can see at the park. This will take into account like the map that you see now is the current self-guided tour map. These interpretive signs will certainly talk about the history of the nursery, the natural aspects of the park. Again, we are excited to move forward with this part of this project and working with our community partners. Again, MSN, you guys, Washington Township, Janet. Oops, I did it again. And then with that, let's leave it now question and answers. Sure.
I have a question. Are you going to be charging admission?
So the question was if we're going to be charging admission. We are not charging admission. The park will be open
will it be secure at nighttime to avoid anybody coming in at nighttime?
City of Fremont parks are not fenced. Oh, how will the property be secured at nighttime? Yes. City of Fremont parks are not locked up. They are open, all of them. There are some rare situations like the water park that has dangerous things like swimming pools for people to drown in, that is fenced up and locked. But the city of Fremont does not lock its parks. Well, homelessness is an issue that the entire city is facing. It is not just parks. It's everywhere throughout the city. And we have a homelessness task force that works very hard on these issues. And the parks and recreation groups are very much involved in that. I cannot sit here and tell you that I can eradicate homeless for you, but I can tell you that the city is very focused on it from a holistic standpoint. And this site will, of course, be acknowledged as part of that, and is already actually. Gretchen has a question. Say it again, Gretchen.
For the historic buildings, how about security for those?
All those buildings will be locked, just like all of our park buildings will be locked at night. Yes.
Like things like the vacuum shed and.
Yeah, they're locked today, so that remains unchanged.
And are they alarmed?
I think only the museum has an alarm today. So that's a future building renovation issue where in terms of the buildings, we didn't talk much about the buildings. In order for us to do any of the buildings that you saw as part of the master plan, we do need to have partners, partners who want to help manage these buildings, maybe a foundation that want to help contribute money. The city of Fremont has park development fees that it's able to renovate the site and increase the uses in the site, but it cannot be used for buildings. And so we are always looking for partners for buildings. So in terms of any changes to the building, Gretchen, that would be coming later.
Got an online question. What is the budget for the project?
So the online question is, what is the budget for the project? Currently, the master plan is estimated at north of $40 million. That includes all the building renovations that would be required and proposed new buildings. So that is a very long-term budget. The current project you see out there is roughly $10 million. That's a $10 million effort you see going on out there today. So it's going to take a while to complete this project.
How do you plan on avoiding graffiti?
Once again, graffiti is a citywide issue. It's just like homelessness. We do have a graffiti task force in the city in our maintenance department, and they do work very good at eradicating graffiti throughout the park, all entire park system and the city of Fremont. So this site is already part of that, and it will continue to be part of that.
And will it be patrolled? It hasn't been patrolled?
The city of Fremont Police Department patrols all the city parks. This is a city park. It will be a city park. It is a city park. It will be treated like a city park. It's not going to be any different in any of those ways from other city parks.
The interpretive panels, are you going to include the history, the Audubon Society, all the birds that are out there, all the trees that are available to see in the park, all the insects and critters like that, and even the small mammals like raccoons and squirrels and all those kinds of things, so that and the prehistory of the mammoths and stuff. Are you going to include all that in your interpretive panels?
Yes, yes, and yes. We are, as Rico pointed out, we are just baby steps in this, and we really are going to lean most heavily on the resources that are coming out of the Roding archives to tell the story. The natural part of this is we're going to be looking for other people to help us with as well. So make your list, send it to us. I'm serious. If you think there's some important things you want to make sure that are discussed. I don't have any knowledge as to history of mammoths on this particular site. If there is any, we need to tell the story. But I think there are other parts of the community that are telling that story very well, such as Sabercat Historical Park is the primary. Dr. Godfrey.
Rico mentioned possibly possibly changes in the rose garden. Question as to, do you think you will continue with the old succulent garden and do you call it the Japanese garden? What do you refer to? Shade garden.
We are not changing the rose garden. I don't think Rico said he was changing the rose garden. There's a potential to expand on the other side of Nursery Avenue as part of the entry plaza. There is a potential new partner that wants to invest in a rose garden, and we're currently talking to them, but so far it's not a real thing. So if that were to happen, it's a potential location to have additional roses, but we are not changing the existing rose garden or the shade garden.
One other question, and hats off for all the work you've done, because we all recognize that this has been a long and difficult and very promising project, and we all really appreciate the historical nature of the park as well. My question is, given that it is a historical park and that it has 126 years as a nursery, do you anticipate over time, and I've asked this question before, but do you see the possibility of a boutique or some form of nursery in the years ahead?
That is all dependent on partners that come to us. That's the only way that would work. We wouldn't invent that on our own. That would be somebody that comes to us with a viable plan. All ideas that are consistent with the master plan are open. And so anything that a partner wants to come forward with that is consistent with the council adopted master plan should and would be considered. I'm not repeating the questions, am I? I'll get better at that. Oh, thank you for that. The packing shed will be an expansion of what it is today. It currently houses many of the larger vehicles that were part of the California nursery history. I don't know, have you ever been in there? So there's a number of trucks and other farm or nursery implements that are in there. And so what would happen to the packing shed would be really to structurally bolster it up, make it safe and sound to have the public in there so that they could come in and appreciate those things. That's the kind of renovation. And I'm going to segue with that question. I brought 2 copies of the actual master plan. It is 3 volumes thick. Obviously, you're not going to sit around and read it today, but I'll just tell you that there's 3 volumes. The first volume is the actual master plan and tells what's being done here, what the plan is all about. The second volume is all about the trees, 750 trees, diseased and dying trees, trees that need water very quickly, trees that don't need water so much, some that might need a little bit of water. It's a very, very detailed volume. And the third volume is an additional supplemental documents. And one of those supplemental documents is a detailed analysis of every single building that's there today, and discussions of what needs to happen to those buildings to bring it into a productive member of the park so that it actually can be part of the park and used by the public.
Are you donating them to the museum?
Those are actually my last copies, and I'm sorry I cannot, but I think we can get one printed for you. I think that's a reasonable thing. That's a very good purpose. So yes, in the back.
Online question?
Yes.
Any water features for wildlife attraction?
There are no proposed water features in general. There is an existing fountain that's there that I know that the garden club is working on trying to bring back to life. And I think they've had some success already. But in terms of new water features, the master plan does not propose any new water features. Janet.
So I give tours and there's certain spots at the nursery that are extremely historic, like created in the 1950s, like and then the Adobe gardens. This is one thing that kept those that beautiful with flowers, and she brought cut flowers into the Adobe for during the shows. And And then the roading, we haven't talked about what plan is for the yellow house, whether you're going to be restoring a garden around there, whether that's in this phase or another phase. And then another very important part to me for tourists is the orchard. And I have a note to respond to you guys, but I wanted to come here first. I find that you're talking about a light touch, but I find that stone pergola in the orchard to be very not light. And it causes, it's the antithesis of the straight lines that you need for taking care of orchards. And because I know a lot of people know about Albert Edder now, special apples that were grown there and tested and were uniquely sold by the California Nursery. I just hope that there's a place there in the orchard for Albert's apples, and then also the big trees. There's several kinds of trees that are fairly drought tolerant, like figs, lemons, persimmons. You know, I hope that some of those drought tolerant trees can be brought into there too. So, anyways, I know I had a note to you guys, and you offered to talk to me, but I thought the public should know also about the orchard, and then if you can talk about the gardens, the adobe and the yellow house gardens. So what's the cost for that?
So as far as the orchard goes, you have from me in writing that we are actually heavily dependent on your knowledge of what trees we need to plant in the orchard. We have not met anybody who has the body of knowledge that you have in terms of the history of what species were there and the proper way to expand that orchard species. So, you know that already, even though you asked the question. So thanks for serving that up for me on a silver platter. I appreciate that. But anyway, look forward to that very soon because that project is going to move forward. And so we'll be sitting down with you to try to figure out the right way to do that. In terms of the adobe, right now there is no future project scheduled for the adobe to change anything at the adobe except for irrigation. There is no immediate project for the president's house either. It is in the plan very clear of what to do with both of those properties or areas, I should say. And those gardens are articulated in the master plan. And restoring I don't know about mimicking or restoring or creating a garden that's consistent with what used to be at the president's house is exactly what the master plan calls for. What that is, someone like you could be enormously helpful with that. But there's no project right now for that. And there is a walkway that's being built up to it. And there is a setting for it. But until we have future money to create that building as a public space and open it to the public, we are kind of not sure which way to go with it. So right now we're putting the money that the council has attributed to the project to things that we can do. So that's where that is. Yeah.
But what we are putting in for the gardens is the irrigation infrastructure. So putting in the irrigation main line and connections that we can tap into easily in the future, where we just tap into that and it will work with our irrigation controllers. So when we get to that point, when we find partners for these gardens or find the resources for these gardens, then we can almost a plug and play.
Yeah, and the partnership is always a very, very important piece. So if someone came forward and with a proposal to maintain the gardens, we could work with them on and maybe prioritize that. I believe in the back corner we had a question. Okay, Newt.
Well, I was just curious about a couple things. Two questions. The first one is the drought in the lower aquifer and all that had any effect on any of the trees yet, or have you noticed any problems?
Yes, dramatically. We have lost an enormous amount of trees, and Yeah, we have. As Rico mentioned in his presentation, we've lost upwards of 30 trees. And this didn't happen obviously overnight. This has been going on since even before when NACA was on the property. NACA did have access to the well and watered the site a lot, but it wasn't a watering program. So there wasn't a very detailed approach to how the site was
There's a
watered.
name for aquifer dependent trees. I forgot what it is. There's a species. I just can't remember. I know you've got plenty of those.
Well, yes, I suppose so. I'm not going to play botanist tonight because that would make me look dumb. But I will tell you that the second volume in the master plan is very detailed about what trees we need to focus on very quickly. And we know where our problems are. And there are some trees we need to get water to. There are some sad stories too that I prefer not to tell of some really important resources we've already lost out there. And none of us want to see any more of that happen. And that's what this project is all about. And so much of this conversation about the California Nursery Master Plan has been about the irrigation and getting irrigation to the trees. But when you build a site or you rebuild a site, you start from the ground up. And when I say the ground, I mean down underground, the 6 miles of conduit, the 4 miles of irrigation, all of that has to go underground before we can get up and start doing the work on top. And so we're there now. We're ready to do that. So it's coming.
The other question is, it reminded me of something I knew about because I was one of my, I've been around here all my life. I happened to be at one of my doctor's offices, and if you know they have all kinds of pictures of California Nursery and historical pictures in Washington West and Hospital Annex at Civic. And I saw something that reminded me of brought up a question. It showed a wagon holding a palm tree in it that was going to the World's Fair in 1915. Is any of those trees still at they brought them back?
Well, there's a little bit of debate about that. And it turns out that it's now believed by our resident expert sitting in the back corner in a red jacket, whose name will be unmentioned, that those trees didn't actually come back. And we're not the keepers of the knowledge. We rely on our partners to teach us these things.
Bruce, he'll know something.
Talk to Janet in the back corner too, before you leave. She knows a lot.
I met her. I saw a real nice presentation that she had. It's online now. She says that
Yeah.
people might be interested in. That was, I don't know if she came up with it or they just found it, but it was a picture of taken of the nursery in the 30s, I believe. Is that correct?
So you think about the movies?
What year?
There's a lot of movies from the
Mm.
80s all the way through the 60s.
Yeah, it was black and white. It even had some Bruce was there. He said, "Oh, look at me, 4 years old," and it showed him.
So I encourage everybody to go to the museum that's on site that Dr. Joyce Bluford and Janet have worked so hard on trying to find stories to tell using the Roding archives and everything else that they know. And so many of those kinds of questions could be answered. And when is that open exactly, Janet?
It's not open.
On certain Saturdays of the month, or so you guys aren't opening the museum?
No, the city, I think, stopped paying for someone to open.
Oh, I thought you guys were still doing that on your own. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, it'll hopefully be open again in the future. You can always reach out to Janet. Enormous resource. Any other questions? Yes, in the back corner.
All right, there was a couple, let me get to them. What was on, any consideration for bird, bee, butterfly migration habitat?
I think we're not changing the horticulture of the nursery as it is today. It is a historical nursery. And so what the master plan does is celebrate the nursery. So while there's nothing wrong with doing those things and it would be consistent with the master plan, we would be looking for partners to help maintain those kinds of facilities, those volunteer groups that would want to maintain that kind of thing.
And one more, have you considered permaculture principles and methods to bring back life to soil and site?
Yes.
The
They certainly are. We're very excited about Dig Deep coming to the nursery. We've Rico and I have both toured their sites in San Leandro, and they're just doing amazing things. They're just wonderful. Al.
Janet brought up the pergolas and you skipped over them.
There wasn't a question. She was commenting on the pergolas.
I would like to continue that comment because they do look a little garish.
Okay. Noted. Thank you.
I would like to see a round column symbolizing trees or something like that.
Good comments.
Or they did have trellises that held Syria.
And there's no reason why that might not be able to happen here. So how we design that arbor, I think, is completely open. The fact that it's there, it is there, is part of the master plan. The images that you see of it in the master plan are not set in stone. It's just that there would be something like that. So how we design it, the components, the types of columns, things like that is completely open.
Hi, this is Paul Sethi.
Gretchen, were you, oh, I'm sorry, up here.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, it seems to be.
This is Paul Sethi. Are you able to hear me?
A lot of hardscape and infrastructure, of course. But when we open this up, it seems to me that there's very little. I mean, I know you're saying you need more money, or how much money is left over? Because I don't see anything going into actual gardens other than that very small orchard. Like you're kind of blowing off the gardens around the president's house and fixing the gardens at the adobe. I mean, the main thing is the nursery. And I don't see that really coming to fruition. Is there any money left at all?
Building, so you mentioned the orchard, and we are moving forward with the orchard. And the primary reason we're moving forward with the orchard is because we have a partner that's approached us. That partner is going to take care of that orchard, and we will build it for them. And it'll become an educational resource and a historical resource for the entire community because a partner is actually going to maintain it. The city is not capable of managing an agricultural orchard. The city is also not capable of managing high maintenance gardens. And that's why we are so amazingly thankful for the garden club and what they do with the rose garden and the shade garden and the Japanese garden. It wouldn't be there if it weren't for them. And we know that. We are always open to new partners. I know that Dr. Godfrey has talked about a native plants garden he would love to do out there. All of those ideas are wonderful ideas, but we need partners. We need partners who will volunteer to maintain or fund maintenance or something like that, because all of these are require care and feeding at a higher level than what a traditional park maintenance does.
The city of Fremont has had a prohibition in its parks on any type of economic activity. I'll give you different examples where you could not have a farmer's market on a park, could not do other types of, the dog show, the vendors had to be off site from the Niles Park. We come up with a different category for this facility, that you can have some economic activities.
I'm not familiar with the prohibition. In fact, I don't think there is a prohibition. Perhaps every park has a different response, and every park has a different purpose, and every park has different things you can do inside of it. I don't pretend to be the expert, but I can tell you we do have commercial ventures, and I can tell you that as long as they are temporary in nature, they can happen. But we can't do them in neighborhood parks. We can't do them in our smaller parks. We have to use those kinds of things would have to happen in with a nonprofit backing in our larger parks, and where a commercial activity is suitable and appropriate. And I'm not here to debate which is which right now, but that is the environment that we would have to consider something like that. And we would have to accept any kind of proposal for commercial venture every individually.
It'll be of interest to the Niles Main Street organization, which is when they did the dog show, they had to put the vendors on water district property because the city had a prohibition of any commercial activity on city property.
There may have been a reason they couldn't do it that I'm not aware of. And I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that particular issue.
The other was the ban on political activities. So those are-
I do believe our code does talk about political activities inside our parks. I think you're right. That one probably does exist. Yes, Al?
Water, if you're gonna be pumping up, hundreds of gallons of water from, the aquifer underground to irrigate these orchards and stuff. Has anyone determined how much water we've got under there that you can pump up before we get a salt intrusion from the bay?
We are working closely with staff at Alameda County Water District, and they're very well aware of what our proposal is. They're very well aware of the water demands that we would need for this. And they also have historical data on when we did used to have a well here, and that was used. So they have knowledge about the aquifer that we don't pretend to be experts in. And we're working hand in hand with Alameda County Water District staff. So we leave those kind of questions to them because I personally can't answer them directly. But I can just guess that we're probably okay given our sheer distance that we are from the bay in this location. Beyond that, I'd be way outside of my expertise.
The one online question from Paul Sethi was, we have a tree database. Are these, that previously Fremont has done, are the trees in the nursery being added to that database?
They are already included, and they are included in volume 2 of this master plan as well. But we have an enormous amount of information on the trees at California Nursery. Yes. Janet.
One of the lakeside gardens have been opened as one of the things that you need to get people involved is some comforts. So like a place where you can do, where you can have a potluck when the weather's not so great, or you can have a slide presentation or something like that. So I don't know if there's anything in the future, but I just heard about some community rooms at the downtown area. Will those, I also, some garden clubs, because they take care of city properties, are allowed to use community rooms for free in exchange for the work that they've done. So I just wondered, is there a possibility in the future of some kind of a community room that could be used for like nighttime meetings to talk about, you know, the American Iris Society, or all the different kinds of plant fanatic societies. It's just, you know, a social part of these plant societies is very important. So how can that be achieved at this time?
So as you already know, and again, thank you for serving that up on a silver platter. The President's House and the Adobe right now are given to free to MSN, and I know that you work with them. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, not the President's House. Oh yeah, the President's House, the office, and the Adobe are all used for free by Math Science Nucleus in exchange for all the fantastic work that you're talking about. That's exactly right. I guess I didn't finish. So my point is that absolutely, that the city has a long history of that sort of give and take, and that's exactly what partnership means. So again, a proposal, come forward. That's what we would look at. The city has 5 community centers. And now the new downtown event center is going to be added to that. So it's not just downtown, it's all over the city. We have community centers with rooms in them.
Adobe has been used for potluck things too, I believe.
Yes, it has. Yes, absolutely it has. Well, construction will not last forever. Gretchen, yes.
You mentioned park opens, what will the status be of the packing shed? I mean, is it gonna be stabilized to the point that people can at least get up and kind of peer in, or?
Not yet. What I was saying is not just all city funds, but the park development fees that we are able to use in the parks. Those have restrictions on that exclude using those fees on buildings. There is a small effort that is going to happen to stabilize the right side. I call it the right side, north side of the packing shed. That is really in desperate need of propping up. But in terms of the packing shed overall, it is not slated at this. It doesn't have any money right now identified to do anything. But once something does come up, we certainly know what we're going to do with it. Yes, we are. Well, as I just pointed out, we are going to take measures to make sure it doesn't deteriorate. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
But there's money for the Adobe to.
No, the Adobe restroom. So we are allowed to spend money on auxiliary structures, and that would be a restroom.
But how about for the Adobe itself? Let's say the child comes off.
No, that those are repaired by our building maintenance through our in-house staff.
So then the building, like the Adobe would be maintained at the current level, at its current condition.
It would be maintained at its current level. Yes. Yes. Not any modifications. All the buildings will be maintained at their current level.
Do we have anything more in line? I'm not saying that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for letting us come here. As I said in the beginning, we are always excited to talk about this project. And we love the fact that everybody has so much passion about it. So thank you for having us.